So this is a review of the Kubota Z726X Zero-Turn Mower with a 60-inch deck from a landowner's perspective. So 5 years ago, I moved on a 33-acre lot with about 10% of it being grass. Initially, when we moved in, I bought a compact tractor. It's a 40 horsepower diesel tractor, and I bought a 6-foot rear mower to put on it. And it was a compromise because this tractor is pretty heavy. It's about 3,500 pounds. It has industrial tires, not turf tires, so I had to be really careful while mowing around the house with it because it's very easy to damage the lawn with it. And also it has a manual transmission, so it's not very efficient while mowing compared to an hydrostatic transmission. And on top of it, it has a cab, so it's quite high, cannot get close to the tree. So I ended up having to do a lot of push mower, like 2 hours a week approximately of push mowing, 2 hours of weed eaters, and 2 hours of tractor. That's just for around my house, so it's 6 hours. Not very efficient. So it was a compromise, but and now it was time to get something more efficient. So when I started to look at proper, more efficient tools, I looked at the Husqvarna R322T all-wheel drive rider. It seemed to be quite efficient at turning on a dime. But when I started looking at reviews, I saw that people had a lot of issues with it. In particular, the transmission didn't seem to be very reliable. So I moved away from that product, and I then looked at the Kubota GR2120 lawn tractor with a diesel engine and a 54-inch deck. I really like that little tractor, most of all because it has a diesel engine. And I tend to like diesel engines because they have quite a bit of torque, and they don't use much fuel, and they tend to last quite a while. But this tractor, it's all-wheel drive, and it can negotiate tight turns because of the way the inner wheel decoupled when you turn. And so I was looking at these two products because I have some ditch on the side of the road that is quite steep. And although I knew that zero-turn mowers were more efficient, I thought that that slope was not good for a zero-turn mower, so I was looking more at lawn tractors. But then I saw the Cub Cadet zero-turn mower with a steering wheel that controls the front wheels, and it seemed to be a good product, and it seemed to be pretty good on slopes. I saw videos of people driving them up and down the hills and going sideways, and it seemed very good. So I started to look at that. It had good components, the models I looked at, but then when you start looking at the zero-turn mowers, then you have a lot of options. So I started to look at other manufacturers, and I started to look at models that didn't have a steering wheels, and I started to wonder more like if a zero-turn mower could handle the type of hills I have, which is not, it's basically one strip along the road which has a 3-degree angle slope, plus some small, hills on my property, which are not a big deal. But then it seemed that if I got the right mower, the right zero-turn mower, it could handle the ditch on the side of my road if I'm careful, and it's not a big deal if I have to go a bit slower for that pass there. If I can be way more efficient on the remaining of the yard. So the main factors for the piece of equipment I was looking for is I needed something that would be durable, and because I tend to keep my equipment for decades, I wanted something sturdy because my lawn is not perfect. It can be quite a bit bumpy, and it has rocks, and the ground tends to shift, particularly in the spring after the snow thaw. and I wanted the product to not bend while using it on my yard, and I don't want it to break after a few years. I wanted an efficient machine, but most zero-turn mowers they are quite efficient. I wanted the 60-inch deck because I have the space for it, and it's faster. And I wanted a reliable product, although I'll do all my maintenance and repairs myself. So labor is not a big factor, but when things break, you end up wasting time. So these were my main criteria. So a priori, I didn't have any bias towards a particular brand. I looked at a bunch of manufacturers. I looked at, obviously, at Kubota. I looked also at Gravely, Scag, Ferris, Toro, Cub Cadet, Husqvarna, Ostler, Big Dog, John Deere, and Bobcat. And all these manufacturers, they have good products. They have both, residential and commercial products. And you cannot go wrong if you go with a good product from one of these manufacturers. But because of that slope I have, I prefer to stay away from a product with a rear suspension, because I thought that if I have a suspension and I go sideways on a hill, that might make it more tippy. So because of that, I kind of excluded Ferris. Although on the flat with bumps, it could have been a good product. But then I started to look at the components of the different products from these manufacturers, and what I liked about all these manufacturers is that they have products that use generic components. They use generic engines, and they use generic transmissions. So if the engine breaks, you can replace it by an engine that can be a different model, and it will fit, or you can make it fit pretty easily. It's easier than products that are all integrated. For example, some of the diesel Kubota Zero-Turn Mowers, they have the engine and the transmission and the mower, everything is kind of integrated, so it's not easy to replace one component by something that is a bit different. And also you are stuck buying the parts from the dealer. But with generic components, you have the option to go with to buy the parts you need from another small engine shop. So it's quite handy. So that kind of excluded the Kubota diesel product, and also the high-end Scag products. So now I'll do a quick walk around the machine. There are other reviews out there, so I don't want to repeat everything that's on these reviews, but as a quick set of features I liked about this mower, I like the fact that it's using a commercial Kawasaki engine. It's the FX801V engine with dual element air filter. This is something I wanted, a good engine in my machine, obviously, and the commercial Kohler engines look nice, seem nice. Some people like them, some people had issues. I guess with Kawasaki it might be similar. Maybe I had some bias with the Kawasaki engine, I'm not sure, but anyway, I like that engine. I like the fact that this mower comes with what they call the big block line of their engines, because the 700 series are smaller engines, so a bit less torque. So but the 801V and the 850V are bigger engines. So I like that engine. Another thing that I liked about this mower is that it got a very nice beefy Parker transmission. It's a bit hard to see here, but this transmission is really heavy duty. It has a maximum torque of 682 pound-foot of torque with 2,500 pound gross vehicle weight capacity. So it was very hard to find any other mower in that price range that had such a nice transaxle. In fact, I don't think there's any. Compared to the other mowers that use hydro gear transmissions, the only hydro gear transmission that, I mean, to get to that level of sturdiness and power with hydro gear, you need to get the ZT5400 transmission, which is not available in the other mowers in that price range, as far as I could find. And even the 5400, although on paper it seems as heavy duty, I still prefer the design of Parker. There might be some bias there, I'm not sure, but anyway, that Parker transmission is very nice. Also, I read that many people really liked how smooth that transmission was compared to other mowers. I assume they were comparing it to hydro gear transmissions like the 3400 series, for example. Another feature that I like about this mower is, well, it got a nice sturdy deck, very thick gauge steel, and with a very nice heavy-duty spindles. So very nice beefy spindle with reinforced deck. So this is something that was noted on some other reviews I saw. Also, the lifting mechanism is very sturdy. So there shouldn't be any issue with this. So it should last me a very long time without any issue. The deck is 6-inch deep, which is another feature that I like compared to some other decks I considered. So that should allow to provide a good lift. Another feature that I liked about this mower is the nice suspension seat. So that should be comfortable while riding on more bumpy surfaces, and it's adjustable for the weight of the operator. So that's pretty nice. Another feature of this mower is that the gas tank is mostly under the seat. So I will try to show you. So it's mostly located under the seat. So it should provide a very low center of gravity. So that should help on the hills. It should be less tippy because of that. And also being under the seat, it's less exposed to the sun. So it should help the gas, lasting a bit longer without turning stale, because it's not heated up as much as with the tanks above the wheels. The tires are very nice. They are very wide. So compared to other mowers in that price range, it should provide a bit more stability. They are 12-inch wide tires. The front tires are 6.5 wide, and they are flat free, so less maintenance. There's nothing wrong about these. Another feature that I discovered about that deck I wasn't sure I would be getting is that I got the upgraded deck with the plate there. If you want to step on it, I don't think I will step on it because I don't want it to go out of. I don't want the adjustment to be thrown off by stepping on it. But anyway, I think that's the only difference with that deck compared to the previous year models. So overall, basically, this is the mower I could find with the nicest set of features for the price I paid. All the manufacturers I mentioned, they all have good products, and if you pay a lot, you can get very nice features, but in the price range of the 700 series, I couldn't find any other model with all the features I just mentioned. You know, if you want the best of the best, you know, if you go with the top of the line, for example, Scag mowers, you might get an even better mower, but you know, you might pay almost double the price of this mower. So, you know, it's a matter of priority. For me, I think it's plenty. That's exactly what I needed as a landowner. I want something that will last. You know, even if the deck might not be the best in terms of cut quality. It's not, you know, the biggest concern for me. I want a deck that cuts well, of course, but you know, I don't care about stripping, for example. That's clearly not a priority for me. So for that price range, I think it's the best that I could find. So I got a few upgrades with the mower because I thought it would be handy features. So first of all, I got an operated control discharge chute. So I want to show it because I couldn't find you know, nice pictures of videos of it online. Initially, I wasn't sure if I would get it because it wasn't clear for me that it was sturdy enough. But it turns out that it's pretty nice. The supports of the mechanism are as thick as the deck of the mower, so that's not an issue. It's pretty good. The chute blocker itself is a bit thinner gauge metal. So that's maybe the only concern I have on the long term, although I intend to keep this here, so I think it should protect it. So I don't forecast any issues with this chute blocker. So the way it works, basically, you have a remote controlled by a handle, and it pulls on a cable and it controls the chute, and there's some springs to make it work, and it seems pretty good. Wasn't too complicated to install either. Another option that I got is the maintenance lift kit. That's another accessory that for which I couldn't find much information. Basically, what you do is you pull on these pins and then you install it there, and then you turn the crank and it lifts the front of the mower, so it allows you to clean under the deck, to keep it in good shape for a long time. So it's a nice feature, I thought. Another accessory that I got is a filter minder. So it's an airflow restriction gauge, basically, that measures if there's any restriction from the air filter, and the gauge keeps lowering down as restriction builds up in the air filter, and basically once it reaches some level, the indicator turns red, and then you change the filter and push the reset button, and then it goes back to zero. This is not an accessory for this mower, actually. It's not listed as a part for this mower, although the Kawasaki engine is clearly designed to have one of these, or at least to allow for one of these, because there was that port in the intake for it. So I got basically through a Kawasaki part, I got that restriction gauge. So I got the Kawasaki part number 520052152, and it's an 8-inch of water filter minder air restriction gauge made by Donaldson. And so basically with these, you don't necessarily have to keep looking at the air filter and see if it's dirty, and risking, you know, having dust sucked by the engine when you remove it. So I thought it could be a nice handy feature for this mower. So that's another part that I got, which was not an accessory. So unfortunately the video stops here, but what I wanted to add is that there are a few engines available for this mower, including the FX801V from Kawasaki that I picked. There is also a color engine that I didn't really consider, but there is also a FX850V EFI engine from Kawasaki, which is an EFI version basically of the 800 series block that my engine uses. And I ended up choosing the carburated engine because it's a very well-proven engine that has been around for quite a while. The AFI version has been around for only a couple of years. There's been a recall already on the fuel system. Also, that EFI engine is not EFI engine at the same level as you would have for in a car, for example. It's not. They don't use metering of the air-fuel ratio to tune the fuel injection. In fact, they don't even use O2 sensor to measure the efficiency of the engine. So what they do is they have a fixed fuel map in the engine that might be adapted, that might be modified in depending on the actual temperature and things like that. But they don't measure the air fuel ratio as the engine ages, for example. So it means that it doesn't necessarily translate into more durability of the engine, or in terms of better reliability. So, and also most of the power difference between the 801V engine and that new EFI version of the block is explained by the fact that the 801V engine is limited on the opening of the throttle valve, which can be remediated quite easily. And the other half is probably due to the more accurate fuel map compared to the carbureted version. But the price difference between these two engines is quite significant too. And what you could save in terms of fuel with the EFI version, for me, like I made a calculation basically, and I cannot really motivate the purchase of that EFI version based on the fuel saving that I will make. Also, although I like EFI technology, if some of the sensors break, it will probably translate into higher maintenance and parts cost over time. So that's basically it for my video. Hopefully that will be helpful for some people considering this mower, or that are trying to compare different mowers and look at characteristics that might be important for them. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I am a landowner. I'm looking mostly for durability and efficiency and reliability, and less in terms of the ultimate best quality of cut. But to me, it seemed that this Kubota mower was basically the best product I could get for my money. And so let me know what you think, and if it was helpful for you. Hopefully I tried to bring a few points that didn't seem to be included in most of the videos I found online on this mower. So hopefully it will be helpful for some people. Thank you.